This past December, the Black Lives Matter movement held an action during the December Franklin County Chamber of Commerce's breakfast meeting and award ceremony. GCTV met with two of the participants of the action at our Greenfield studios to talk about what the Black Lives Matter movement aims to accomplish and why these participants felt compelled to take action.
I'm from Cape Cod. I'm Mashpee Wampanoag and African American, of course. So I grew up in a very gentrified area with very much that crowd. And to me, it's most important that that crowd hears the message more than any other crowd. Those are the people who allow the system to continue. When people are comfortable and they're not, intervened on, they have no reason to confront the system that oppresses and kills so many people every day. There is absolutely an ultimate aim. I would say equality in every sense of the form. Economic justice, to really take a long look at the prison industrial complex that has been basically the new Jim Crow, used to make money for the American system on the backs of largely black and brown people. We want equal, quality schools, quality food. There's so many things.
We're not gonna stop till people are free.
I really want to live in a society where everyone has the opportunity to feel safe, to thrive, to, have meaningful connections everywhere they go. I'm a Jewish person who comes from a people that has historically been really marginalized, and I have a lot of personal experiences of being ignored and ostracized among white people, and I don't like that, and I don't want anyone else to have to experience that either, and I certainly don't want to see the level of state violence in form of, police brutality, incarceration, arrest, strict court sanctions, fees, things like that disproportionately impact black people and other people of color in our society. Focusing particularly on black communities, because that's what this movement is about. I think that there are sort of two interlocking forces going on. There's the economic exploitation and marginalization where, it can be really hard for people in black communities to find any job. Let alone even a minimum wage job, but to find any job. It's easier, if I were to be convicted of a felony, it'd be easier for me as a white man with a felony record to get a job than a young black man without any kind of record, just based on the kind of profiling and discrimination that goes into hiring practices. Black people in our society are really kept out from the jobs that do exist. And then on top of that, also experience this really targeted and intense level of state violence, in the form of searches, brutality on the street, searches of homes, and higher rates of incarceration, higher sentencing for different kind of crimes, things like that. Much higher arrests for things like drug crimes, even though white people do drugs the same amount that black people do.
GCTV also wanted to know why civil disobedience and a prominent, loud presence is so essential to this movement's success.
Legislative gains are not made without revolution. Without people in the streets demanding justice, the justice just doesn't come. And that goes for the black elite class as well, who are comfortable in their positions and don't really want to challenge the system because they're very comfortable. And so unless people are faced with these issues and these bodies day in and day out, things won't change.
Both also talked about why they wanted to include and engage a wider community and why that is a key to victory both today and historically.
I believe it's LBJ's quote, that if you convince a white man, even the lowest white man on the totem pole, that he's better than a black man, you can pick his pockets. If you give him somebody to look down on, he'll empty his pockets for you. And to me, I believe that's been the exact course of the American history. And I think that it is a struggle. I mean, obviously there's many struggles, racism, of course, being the topic of the hour, but that racism has been able to continue because the white working class specifically has been also oppressed in a way by the elite. And racism is a distraction so that we can all be oppressed by the elite.
Yeah, I was actually kind of disappointed with some of the response that we got at the action. You know, we went in there with the idea that we were going to sing a song, and we passed out lyrics to this beautiful song about fighting, racist policing and standing up for justice. We passed out the lyrics. And in fact, as we went around and passed out the lyrics and some information, a lot of people, said to me, thank you. I'm so glad you're here. This is really wonderful what you're doing, being here at the Franklin County Chamber of Commerce and speaking up about this. And speaking of white supremacy, it was these white male authority figures, a few high-powered people in our communities who, got up, who yelled at us, who threatened to arrest us, who ushered us out of the room. And I wonder, I have to really wonder what would have happened there. If those people hadn't acted in such a swift and domineering way. I mean, maybe we could have actually had a very, inclusive and supportive community moment rather than a sense of, being in some kind of battle with one another.
So I would encourage any white person who doesn't see race or themselves aren't racist to move beyond the guilt that you might feel admitting your own racism or your own prejudice, to move through that and address the racism that you see every day, that kills people, that inflicts violence on children, all the way up to a 92-year-old woman who was killed by the police. That we will only move beyond the violent white supremacy that we've been living under once people address that. And I while I absolutely believe that black and brown voices should be elevated or, magnified or whatever you want, however you want to term it, and I think that black voices have been muted for so long, I think it's absolutely important that black voices are heard. But I would also say in that same breath, this might sound strange, but I'd actually like to empower some of the white folks out there, especially the white working class. To me, the white people in America are the only ones who will end white supremacy. Black people cannot end white supremacy. We have been trying for 500 years. And we can change our speeches, and we can change our behavior, and we can change anything, and it will not end white supremacy. White people have to address their white supremacy, their parents' white supremacy, their children's white supremacy, and I think that the most important job that any of us can have is addressing racism and teaching the next generation better.
If you'd like more information on the Berkshire Black Lives Matter movement, check them out on Facebook. And check back to gctv.org every day this week for more stories in this series.